Working with the Pfaff creative icon in the embroidery mode means opening designs, learning how to move them, rotate them, and sizing. I'm going to open up a built-in design from the place where the butterfly hangs out. And let's go over to the Pfaff exclusives and let's find a design that we can kind of play with and manipulate. So I'm going to touch and hold. Now you notice immediately, oftentimes it comes in off to the side. So here's where we're going to use the edit function. Number one, so we can learn all these fabulous ways to change up a design or edit it by the way this machine is designed. So as a design has a green box around it, and if it doesn't, by touching the design, that will put a selection box around. I'm going to move it into the center. So this control wheel, I'm going to use quite a few places, but if I just touch the center part, you'll see that I'm back at 0, so kind of at the center of the hoop that I have up. It will select the hoop size if it didn't already, but you can also come in and change the hoop option. So if you are working with a bigger hoop field, I just have the 120 by 120 hoop selected. That's fits this design just fine. So you're going to notice that there are places at the corners and also at the center. So just by touching and dragging, you'll find that you can size it smaller or larger just in that particular way. But if you open the edit area, we'll have the option to move, rotate, or size a design. So depending on which of these three items are green means what we can actually do with it. At the moving option, you can go ahead and move it very small increments, left, right, or up and down, but you can also go and slide it by touching and dragging it any place around the screen. And if you look up here, it'll tell you again what the location is within that the hoop area. If you want it back in the center, touch center again. Now let's talk sizing, because that's probably the one thing people always ask, how do I size it? So you saw me touching and holding a corner, which we can drag out, and eventually it stops and it doesn't go any further. And we can also push it in where it eventually also stops. At the top, it will show you in millimeters the size of that finished design. So I'm going to just leave it any place right now. So here's the thing with sizing. It will go up 20% or it will go down 20%. But keep in mind the stitch count stays the same. So if this has 10,000 stitches in it, at 20% bigger, it still only has 10,000 stitches. And that's why it limits you at 20%. So you don't go too far and it starts spreading out the stitches. So there's gaps in between it. Vice versa, as you put it smaller and push all those stitches together in a smaller design, you still have 10,000 stitches being kind of crammed into that smaller area. So how do you get around that? There is a free downloadable software program. They have it as a complimentary download on Pfaff's website. When you open that software, you will have the ability to size designs and have it change the stitch count for you. It's very simple software, but that is the one thing that it does do. Lets you resize with stitch count changes, designs that you download from the internet, designs that you might save from your machine to a USB stick and then take it over to your computer. You can do that as well and have some different options there. But so many times, most of the time, I just need this to be like slightly smaller, slightly bigger, and what I can do on screen works just perfect. Okay, we mentioned one other thing about the options here. One is rotation. So if we do want to just touch the center one and drag, you'll see your rotation option at the top, especially if you just need to tilt it into position. Now, if you do anything and you don't want it done, again, you have an undo option or a redo. You can kind of go back and forth from what you did and make sure it wasn't something that you didn't want. So you can always undo. But in the rotation option, again, the little kind of C-shaped icon is highlighted, and now we can actually move it smaller increments. So you can see it rotating on the screen, but using the control wheel will help you fine-tune it even smaller increments. Now back with the sizing, there was one other thing I'll point out. So here we're sizing it proportionally by dragging a corner, but see that lock symbol on the inside? If you unlock it, now we have the option to actually make it longer or wider. So it's like it's changing not just the height, but just the width, that type of option. So now that it's all distorted, again, this would be a great place to use that undo and be able to get it back to a normal option. So definitely a way to do it. Now, if you ever touch and drag something out here and your paper moves away or your hoop changes, you are able to kind of move that around. That's helpful when you might go zooming in to see something a little closer and it gets out of position. So again, you can come back down and kind of move things into the viewing area. But I'll slide that back so you can kind of see what that is. All right, so moving, rotation, and sizing. And remember, you can do a lot of that right there on screen with your finger or stylist.